Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be why high-quality women reject you. Well, I've got a quote that I want to go over. I've got a couple emails from a guy here, and he's been practicing this stuff, his pickup skills, and trying to improve his ability to pick up women, get phone numbers, get the kind of women that he really wants. But he does real well at getting the 5, 6s, and 7s, no problem. But women that are like the 9s and the 10s that he really wants, he gets their numbers, but it's almost impossible for him to get dates with them. And when he does actually make a date, they're like far and few between. And so the interesting thing about like what I do is like we all tend to bullshit ourselves, we self-bullshit ourselves basically. And that's the beauty of like what I do is like so I can read a guy's email and like because we all tend to sugarcoat everything and make ourselves look better than we really are. And so by his first email you kind of think, oh well, he looks like he's doing everything perfect the way he describes it. And then his second quick email that he sent me, when I go through it, you're going to see what he's doing wrong. And it's a real subtle difference, but it's a massive difference. Because here's the deal. I've dated a lot of super high achiever kind of women. I'm talking about women that are really successful. One of the girls that I dated, she won the Miss Florida competition. She won Miss Florida USA. She competed in Miss America. She had her contractor's license. I mean, she's fucking beautiful. Vegetarian, ate real healthy, came from a very successful family. And, I mean, literally, you could look at her, all of the statistics of what she had and who she was as a woman, you know, because I had a construction background as well, and we just had a lot in common in that way. And the type of guys that she usually dated, I was one of the youngest guys that she dated, and I think we dated, God, it was like 10, 12 years ago. It was a long time ago. And she was in her I guess, early, mid-20s. But what was interesting is that she I used to mess with her all the time because she had been engaged like 5 different times. So she tended to go out with guys that were a lot older, a lot more successful, and they had their shit together just because of their maturity level. Because guys that tended to be younger her age, they didn't get it. They didn't have it. They didn't have that killer instinct. It's like she was just not, she's not your ordinary woman. Like another one of a girlfriend that I wrote about in my book who was from the UK. She's a fucking amazing girl. She'd won the Miss Figure competition I think a year or 2 before I had met her. She does, I mean now she's a chiropractor, she does fitness modeling, and she started competing again recently, and she wins all of her competitions. She's just a fucking absolutely amazing woman. Well, when you look at her family, her uncle is a famous rock and roll musician. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If I told you who he was, you'd know exactly who it is. And her dad plays in the London Symphony Orchestra. And so she comes from a family of high achievers. She comes from a family of people who are used to getting what they want and who expect to get what they want. And it was interesting, like if you read my book, the night that I met her, and she just said, it's like no guy had ever spoken to me the way you did. It's like you just looked right through me. I couldn't say no. And a beautiful girl like that, I mean, they get hit on everywhere they go. I mean, she had a fucking perfect body. I mean, she won the Miss Figure competition. And so if you want to get a high-quality woman like that, you've got to believe it internally. You've got to believe that you deserve it. You have to have that it quality. You have to be a guy who, outside of your personal life, you feel like your career or your business or taking care of your body, whatever it happens to be, that you are either in the process of getting what it is that you want, you know what you want, and you expect to achieve it, either now or at some point in the future. And there's a different vibe, a different energy about that. And if you want to date really attractive, beautiful women that have successful careers, that take great care of their bodies, that are very smart, great to be around, and they'll push you just as much as you can push them, you have to be at that level internally. That's why I devoted a chapter in my book to it. It's like you've got to become the person that you want to attract, and that's what we're going to see here when I go through this guy's email, is that's part of the problem. Internally he doesn't believe it. It's a subtle difference, but a high achieving one, I'll give you an example. I was out a couple months ago with a really good high school buddy of mine, one of my best friends in the whole world. and we were out in downtown Fort Lauderdale. There were fucking beautiful women everywhere. And so when I go out, I don't go out to meet women. I go out with my friends to have a good time. And we were just hanging out. We parked ourselves in a nice high traffic area of a nice like upscale kind of bar, and there were just a steady stream of gorgeous women walking by. And I remember one of the girls that she walked up. There were two of them, and one I was talking to was just fucking jet black hair, gorgeous big brown eyes, fucking perfect boobs, perfect body. Just, you know, she had nice clothes that fit tightly. I mean, she had this aura about her. She had a smile. I mean, she had the ability to, I mean, she looked me right in the eye and she didn't look away. There was no fear. And I don't see that very often because the average woman just doesn't have that level of confidence. And so typically what I see when I look a woman in the eyes, if she doesn't feel vibrationally that she's on my level, if she doesn't have a self-esteem where she can, if she sees a guy she likes, she'll look him right in the eye. Like my girlfriend Kay that I wrote about in my book was like that. I mean, she looked me right in the eye and she didn't look away. She was not going to be intimidated. She liked what she saw. And the subtle thing that a woman like that, she's used to getting what she wants. She's in a family of high achievers. She comes from high achievers. And she knows that look, that killer instinct, which is different than what the average person has. And so when she starts talking to a guy and she looks him in the eye and she sees that he's checking her out and then he looks away, that's all it takes is the power evaporates. She knows that you ain't got it just from that look because you didn't have the confidence to look at her in the eye. Or when you start talking, you start asking her questions and the tone of your voice, the body language, the physiology is off just a little bit, where because deep down you feel like you really don't deserve it. Maybe your career is not all it could be and you don't really feel as successful as you could be as a man, and so you think, oh, if I just had a really great girl, then I'd be really happy. Women can pick up on it, especially women that are 9s and 10s, and I'm not talking about a woman who's just really gorgeous, because there's lots of gorgeous women in the world. I'm talking about a woman who's gorgeous, who's in great shape, takes care of herself, she's driven, she knows what she wants, she knows how to communicate in a healthy way, and she's just not going to fuck around with guys that don't get it, because you get approached all the time. They get to pick and choose who they want. And so back to this gal I was talking about that I met. So we start talking, and one of my friends is talking to her girlfriend, and so I'm talking to the one that's got dark hair. And I could tell the way she was looking at me. She just started looking at me more and more as we started talking, and her eyes got bigger, and like I said, she had a fucking gorgeous body. And so when I started asking her questions about who she was, what she did, where she's from, that kind of just basic, simple stuff. Nothing super complicated. I mean, just asking questions. Just, I'm fascinated by this girl. I'm like, what is it about this girl? Because she has a look that the average girl doesn't have. Like I said, I don't see that very often because most women just don't have that drive, that belief that they can get what they want. And this girl looked right at me. She was not intimidated in any way. And as I started talking to her, I found out a lot about her. She was a captain of the cheerleading team for a very well-known university. Her girlfriend that she was with, she was also had been the captain of the football team of her cheerleading squad. And this girl's drop dead gorgeous. She starts telling me that she was interviewing for, because she was young, she was like I think 23, 24, and she just graduated in the past year, and she was like on her 3rd or 4th interview out of like 6 or 7 interviews that she had to go to in order to become a pharmaceutical rep. And it's just like when she talked about it, she talked with such enthusiasm, and she had a beautiful fucking smile on her face. And so it's like when I started asking her about it, she was excited to tell me about it. Why? Because she was really genuinely enthusiastic because she majored in marketing. She was captain of the cheerleaders in high school and in college. Fucking gorgeous. She knows she's hot. She knows she's got a great body. She knows she's fucking desirable. She don't need you to tell her that. She knows these things. And so she's been approached enough times in her life by guys that don't get it to know how to blow them off. And so, like in this particular situation, what's happening is this guy's acting a little differently. He's not noticing it, but I can tell from his email, which we're going to get into, of where he's going off the rails a little bit. So I got one other example. I'm not going to mention her name. There's a famous actress. She's really just, I think she's one of the most beautiful women in the world. and she happens to be married, but I follow her on Twitter, and she's just fucking amazing. When she was younger, she was like 21, 22. She'd never been a cheerleader in her life, but she came from a family of driven, successful people, and her ancestry is her family members, like her grandfather. They were former prime minister. I mean, like heads of state, basically, of a well-known country in the world. And so she's used to, I mean, she comes from a family of high achievers, and she's used to getting what she wants, and she expects to get what she wants. And so the fascinating thing about this girl is that she loves her husband, and she's always, you know, posting pictures of him on Twitter, and they've been together, I don't know, 6-7 years at the point they've got a child together, and she loves the shit out of him, and it's pretty obvious. And she's always talking about what an alpha male he is, and she's definitely a fucking alpha female, and the roles that she does on TV, you know, she fucking pulls it off, and I'm going to tell you why she's able to pull it off. And it's like, so she decided, okay, I want to become an actress when she was in her early 20s, and so she went, I mean, she's never been a cheerleader before, ever, never done any of that shit professionally. And so she goes and tries out for, she's like, oh, I should become a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, because a lot of well-known actresses have, I mean, Eva Longoria, I think, was, I don't know, Eva Longoria. There's several well-known actresses that were Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders at one point in their life. And so this girl has no experience being a cheerleader, and she goes out, and she fucking gets in the squad. It's like, who does that? I mean, all of these girls that become the cheerleaders at that kind of a high level are fantastic dancers, fucking phenomenal shape, and they have a passion for dance. You can see it in their face. It's like when they dance in a routine, they nail every fucking step. They're not out, it's just completely synced, completely timed. And the girls that don't make it, you can watch them. The smile, it's like they don't believe that they can pull it off, and you can see it in their face. And so when you start talking to a girl, if like deep down you really don't believe, because maybe something's out of balance in your life, you don't believe in yourself, and you get around one of these kind of women, they'll look right through you and they'll intimidate the shit out of you. If you have fear or doubt, it will come out and they can sniff it and they're gone, because they won't tolerate bullshit. And so I got this quote here from the actor Will Smith, and I love this. He says, the first step before anyone else in the world believes it is that you have to believe it. And so this viewer writes and he says, hey Corey, after being voted the best looking guy in 8th grade middle school, I was feeling even more confident than normal. Fast forward to my freshman year in high school, something weird happened that I didn't think much of at the time, but now realize has become a lifetime problem for me. I hit on this really cute girl, and she ended up rejecting me for this short, fat, silly-eyed Asian guy with an acne problem. I guess I could chalk that loss up to being needy, even if I wasn't, but I still didn't know what I do now. So freshman year in college, I found out and have followed ever since Doc Love's system, where he emphasizes being a challenge, asking for a phone number, waiting 5 to 9 days to make the initial phone call and date, and calling me once every 14 days in between dates, not sharing your feelings towards her until she does first. And so he says, 13 years later, I've cold approached over 1,000 girls, and despite treating all of them the same, I've only been able to get 5s, 6s, and a few 7s. Women through the scale of 1 to 10 love to eye-fuck me, even when they're with their boyfriends who are uglier than me. Women's body language over the years has been so positive towards me that it has made me confident to hit on them in a confident manner. But when I do get the 8 to 10's phone number, I can never get them on a definite first date despite doing things correctly. Well, the thing is, you think you're doing things correctly, but you got to remember, it's over when you talk to somebody, 70% of the communication of what people interpret is nonverbal. The words is only like 10% of what they actually use to ascertain you. So they're looking at your body language, your physiology, the tone of your voice. And they can tell, when they come from a family of super high achievers, they know what that energy feels like. They know what that vibe feels like that. And they know what someone who has it looks like and how they act, and those that don't. And so, I mean, obviously you're mentioning here that you were needy back then. So obviously if you were needy back then, well, more than likely you probably still have those tendencies that are showing up, because the bottom line is that despite approaching all of these women, you're still not getting the results that you want. So he says, let's see here. So he says, I know that 97% of these guys with these hot girls have no clue, but I do. Plus, I'm way better looking than them. Well, it's not all about looks. I mean, I'm an average, decent-looking guy. I'm not the best-looking guy in the world, but that didn't matter. I mean, I wrote about this in my book. I met lots of women in my 20s, and I'd get a first or second date, and that would be it because of how I was behaving on the date and how I was communicating weakness and how I asked them out, how I asked them for the phone number. And it's not so much what you say is really not important. It's how you say it. I had a viewer sent me an email link today to another group of guys. These are young guys that are college age in their early 20s, and they go out and they approach women and get phone numbers all the time. And all three of these guys in this video that I was watching today, they're decent, pretty good-looking guys. And so they had they all were wearing shorts with fake boners in it. And so they were going up to women everywhere with this fake boner. And they're like, hey, what's up? What are you girls up to? And about a third of the girls were like repulsed. Oh, get away from me. Oh, my God. About a third of them just giggled and laughed and kind of walked away. But the other third of them, they're like, hey, what's your number? 310. And they just rattle it right off and give it to them, no problem. And so you can see this stuff like that I talk about all the time. I mean, it is a numbers game, but you can see the body language and the physiology of these guys. They don't care. I mean, they got a fake boner. And it's literally, there's a book called Winning Through Intimidation, and it's a great book on sales. And that was like I was talking about my girlfriend Kate when I met her. It's just I had that look in my eye. It was like I was 100% certain she was going to say yes. I knew it. There was no doubt. But if I'd have been the guy that I was 5 years before that, I would have never even had dinner with her the next night. She would have been able to look right at me and look right through me, and she would have like, he ain't got it. And she would have known. And I wouldn't have at the time, and I would have never got her or had that experience. So he says, my theory is that hot women don't like overly good-looking guys because their trump card beauty is taken away, similar for a guy when a woman earns more money than he does. See, this is a story that you're making up to tell yourself to feel good about things and say, oh, it's not my fault. I'm just too good-looking for women. I mean, think about that. I'm so good-looking that women just don't want to go out with me. And so like I was saying earlier is that, even though I'm a decent-looking guy, what's happening is that I was talking to women out of dating me and sleeping with me, and that's exactly what you're doing. Because you're getting the 5s, 6s, and 7s, but you're not getting the 9s or 10s, and you obviously have seen a lot of dudes in your life that are ugly, out of shape, and they're with beautiful women. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And it's like I said, these guys can walk around with fucking fake boners. I've seen ones where guys walk around with a big giant dildo in their forehead, and like I said, it's like a third, a third, a third. A third are like, get the fuck out of her. A third are, giggling and laughing. And the other third are like, they'll give you their number. It doesn't mean you're going to go out with every single girl who gives you their phone number, but you'll see the difference when you approach women in a proper way. And so he says, I recently moved to Vegas, and I've read your book 10 times, and I hit on an additional 30 8+ women in a month, and I've gotten several phone numbers from 9s, and I still can't get a definite first date. Do I need to just look at this as a numbers game, or just realize that I'm too good looking to get a girl on my level? Well, like I said, obviously looks aren't the issue. It's what you're saying and how you're saying it. So when I get to a second email in a second, you're going to see where he's going wrong. So he says, let's see here. So here's where he starts to go off the rails a little bit. He says, recently I moved to Vegas, and I've read your book 10 times. So he says, I saw this stunning young blonde girl at a casino. He says, I walked up to her, and he said, excuse me, you're adorable. Are you single? are you single is like one of the worst things that you can say, because if you're a guy who's used to getting what you want and used to approaching really super beautiful women and having them say yes, and you have no doubt in your mind that she's going to say yes, you're not going to walk up and go, are you single? You're not going to give a fuck. You're gonna. If she's looking at you and checking you out and eye-fucking you like these women are saying, you're great until you open your mouth. That's basically what's going on. And then when you start talking, you're basically coming across as apologetic for liking the women, apologetic for interrupting, apologetic, oh, excuse me, your highness. Are you single, by the way? Would you ever consider going out with me? That's basically the way it comes off. That's it. You're out. You're done. You got no chance. You're fucking cooked. A woman who's a 9 or 10 is just, you're gonna blow it. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the way it is. You cannot approach women with this kind of saying these kinds of things and expect to be successful. Yeah, the 5, 6s, or 7s all day long, because they're just really happy that somebody is asking them out on a date. But a beauty queen, a Miss Figure, a famous actress, a model, you're not going to get anywhere acting like this. He says, she looked at me and gave me a big smile and said, yes, I'm single. I asked for her phone number and she gave it to me without any hesitation. After she gave me her number, I told her, have a good night, and I walked away. Well, I would have just said, you're fucking absolutely... So if I was to say what you said, how I would phrase it differently, you originally said, excuse me, you're adorable, are you single? I would have just walked up to her and instead of excusing me, I would have said, it's like, holy shit, you fucking take my breath away. You're amazing. I gotta run, but I'd really like to meet up with you for a drink. When are you free to get together? Just like that. It's completely night and day difference. The tone, the way I go about it. Because the way you're communicating, you're acting like a guy who's used to getting blown off by the beautiful woman. You don't see it, but it's a little subtle difference that's what's causing your game to go sideways here. So he says, I waited 3 days to call her, and when I got her on the phone, I asked her 3 small talk questions, and one of them made her laugh when I said, and here's more questions. What kind of shirt do you think I should wear on our first date? Women want you to be the leader. Now you're asking questions. Mommy, please tell me how I should dress. Now you're not a guy who's acting like a lover or a potential lover. You're acting like a guy who's looking for a mommy to take care of him and tell him what to do, how to dress, when they can go out, what restaurant would you like to go to. Women don't want to make decisions. They want you to handle the fucking details. They want to show up, look hot, have a great time, and have you gently lead things, ultimately, to their successful conclusion in the bedroom. And so, the way you're acting in person, and then you reconfirm to her on the phone that you're obviously a guy that's not used to dating and sleeping with and talking to these kinds of women and being successful. So he says, after that question, I immediately said, let's get drinks Wednesday night. And she replied, I can't, sorry. I waited for a counteroffer from her, but she was silent, so I asked, what night are you free? She said Thursday. So I made a definite date to meet up with her Thursday night at the bar. Before I ended the phone call, I said, so I'll see you Thursday at 9 p.m. And she replied, correct. On Thursday night, she stood me up. I'm a very good-looking guy, so I'm guessing her attraction level toward me has to be at least 51%. Well, you may have had a chance because of the way she was looking at you, but like I said, a couple words out of your mouth and you talked her right out of digging you. The 5, 6, or 7, you can get away with that. But a super high achiever woman who's used to getting what she wants, the guys that normally approach her are just not going to talk like you do, and that's why you're failing. So he says, it's been a week since she stood me up, and I haven't contacted her at all, and she hasn't contacted me either. Do you think that she is testing me by standing me up in the first date, or does she have low interest in me despite the fact that I'm a really good-looking guy with good game? Well, it's like you got to stop. Enough of the I'm a good-looking guy and my game is tight. Well, I've already gone through it, and your game, you need to clean it up. And so you think from the end when you go out. Look at I love the actor Daniel Craig and what he's done with the James Bond movies, because he's charming, he's strong, he's confident, he's naughty, And when he says things, he expects to fucking get what he wants. There's no doubt in his mind. He just gets this little, twitch that he does with his lip. And he kind of has this smirk, or he's got the little thing that he does, and he just sits there because he's like, I know you're gonna say yes. I can see the token resistance in your face right now, but I know you're gonna say yes because that's what all women do. And so everything that he does, he acts from that place. He speaks with certainty. You are absolutely not speaking with certainty because you're asking her questions, you're asking her to make decisions, and right off the bat, that communicates that you're not a leader. A woman like a 9 or a 10, she wants to fuck the captain of the football team, or somebody who acts and thinks and walks and talks like the captain of the football team. And you're acting like the dude that's on the JV squad that basically hasn't grown up enough yet. And just like with the quote from Will Smith, what did he say? The first step before anyone else in the world believes it is that you have to believe it. And so, like I said, that's the difference. That's what you need to tweak in your game, is stop asking questions and act with certainty. Remember, the phone is for setting dates, and so when the best thing to do is to set the date right then and there in the spot in person. Or if both of you are free, let the date start right there if you like. Because the more steps that you put in between the two of you getting together, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to do or say something before you actually get together on the first date that you're going to actually screw it up or talk her out of it. Because the idea is once you get together in person over dinner or whatever, you can sit there and you can watch your body language, you can read it, and you can see if you say something that's a little off, you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. And then you change the subject and you go down a different path. Like I said, if you continue to approach women like this, I guarantee you every single 9 or 10 that you approach will continue to reject you, because you just cannot. These kind of women, man, it took me a while before I struggled for a lot of years before things really clicked with me. Like I said, it's like the first time I really made love to a woman I was crazy about, the first time I got a 10 personally, I was in my early 30s. It took me that long, and I was a late bloomer. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 21. And I remember I was talking to a guy the other day, he was 18, he's all bummed that his girlfriend of 2 years broke up with him. He was having sex, I was like, dude, I didn't lose my virginity until I was 21, and it sucked. It was like, I hardly remember. I was fucking drunk. The girl wasn't very attractive. I couldn't tell you what her fucking name was. I really had sex for the first time just to get my fucking friends to stop busting my fucking balls about it. But the thing is that you got to learn to live your truth. And for like me personally, because I didn't really have anybody to go to teach me this stuff, it took me the better part of a decade. But, it was really like my 20s and in my early 30s before I really got it. Like I said, I was 31, 32 before things just like really clicked, and I was able to get over that hump. And it's like once you get that first girl that's like the unattainable to you, you realize it's really not any different than the 5s, 6s, or 7s, but it's all a state of mind. But like I said here, is that your state of mind is different when you get around the 9 or 10 because you've never had one. And so you, deep down, you're already kind of presupposing that it's not going to work out, and it's affecting what you're saying. It's affecting how you're approaching women, and like I said, that's why you're getting rejected. So if you'd like to get my help personally to help you with a situation or a challenge that you're having, whether it's career or health, or you want to figure out what your purpose is in life, or maybe you want to start a business, or maybe things are going sideways in your business, or you want to work on your pickup skills, or you want to work on your dating skills, you want to work on your relationship skills, go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions for booking a paid phone coaching session with yours truly. And I will talk to you soon.